Hey everyone, Mike Miller with the Herald-Times, joined once again by my pal, Herald-Times columnist Amy Graham, back at Memorial Stadium once again. A lot of new turf field looks a lot better. Goodness, a lot better. Major improvement. Pretty good crowd on hand today.
It's the same lighting, but it didn't seem as dark once the sun went down.
Yeah, we'll see with that Michigan State rolls around October 1st, just how bad this lighting is. But I remember a couple weeks ago I was watching just tape of last year's FIU game, and man, it was just the brightest light on the field was actually like the ribbon board they have over on the north end zone. But yeah, the lighting is still a problem. We'll see that in a few weeks. But by and large, nice to be back here at the old Memorial Stadium.
And in the air-conditioned press box, which is greatly appreciated.
No, I mean, you guys don't care, but we
do.
We've suffered through some serious sweltering September days here. My goodness, that Western Kentucky game last year, Southern Illinois game last year, that was.
But enough about the facilities. What about the team playing on the field? And
that also looks improved.
I agree. I mean, it's a team. It's an Indiana team that, if I'm an IU fan, I think I'm liking it at this point. I think I like the looks of this team. They're 2-0, which is the most important stat. And whereas in the opener against Florida International they finished really strongly, they didn't do that today, but they started really strongly.
Yeah.
Overall, they went through a period from the fourth quarter against Florida International through 3 quarters tonight where they outscored the opposition 52-3. And Richard Lago, the new quarterback, that was a question mark coming into the season. He's completing 2/3 of his passes so far this season, none to the other team, which is an important stat. Has 4 touchdown throws now. The other big question mark coming in most people's minds was the Indiana defense. That defense had stretched over the first 2 games now where they played 6 quarters and had 6 takeaways, so a takeaway per quarter trend going there for a bit.
56 minutes between scores allowed.
56 minutes between scores allowed. I mean, when was the last time Indiana did that? I don't know, but I think it's been a good long while. 56 minutes of plays with 0 points permitted. So as much as visions of last year's Rutgers debacle might have been dancing in people's heads.
And it was.
When it was, including the IU players on the sidelines after the easy touchdown punt block for Ball State today. It was kind of reminiscent of the Rutgers game where the first snap of the fourth quarter was a bad punt snap, easy 6 points for Rutgers and gave them momentum. Ball State took some momentum, but this time Indiana made sure that it didn't turn into a loss. And for the most part, I think this Indiana team is impressed.
Absolutely, and I think that we talk about it was absolutely an uninspiring finish to today's game, but largely because they built that foundation, especially through the defense that they played to those first 2 quarters. They were able to put this one away. I thought that by and large, especially in the past couple of years when we've seen Indiana get off to a strong start defensively, when they get that initial push on the defensive line, they've fared well. But by and large. We saw that today. 2 of the first 3 possessions, strip balls. John Crawford's there picking them up. In between was a 3 and out. It was just a very strong start, and we've seen that now 2 weeks in a row. We've seen some of the little things turn into bigger things, and I think that as much as people talk about Richard Lago and rightfully so, and what he can bring to this offense, how he can keep this offense, at a level similar to what it's been in recent years. Again, defense is so key to the direction of this year with better defensive plays, with better third down conversions.
Right.
I mean, that's the difference between another win or 2. And, just the start that they've been able to produce through these first 2 games has been wholly encouraging, I think. Never mind, the fourth quarter here today. Those first 3 quarters, again, holding Ball State off the scoreboard until the final 3 minutes of the third quarter. Going those 56 minutes with more sustained play. I think they controlled the line of scrimmage defensively for longer chunks than we've seen. Certainly across these first 2 games.
And that was a Ball State team that ran for 350 yards in its first game.
Exactly.
And
again, they were initially so fully manned. They got Ralph Green back. He didn't start. Chase Dutra was back. He didn't start. But I think it's also encouraging that they feel comfortable with guys like Tony Fields stepping in. Patrick Doherty's come a long way as a guy who really didn't play his first 2 years, only playing in 5 games last year. Now he's a guy who's starting. And honestly, he's getting a pretty good push up there with Nate Hoff. So
Right.
We've seen guys stepping forward, and they've done so in a sustainable way. It seems like.
Well, and there's some pretty inventive stuff going on in regard to pressure. One fumble that Ball State did not lose today was created by a delayed cornerback blitz by Ashawn Riggins, a true freshman. Really nice call. It was a delayed blitz. It didn't come right away. It was well disguised, and the Ball State quarterback, is a kid that started his freshman year, Riley Neal, and it's a pretty experienced player now. Didn't have any idea it was coming, and so there's good stuff like that happening. And I think also Indiana lost two really key offensive players early in this game. You just want to talk about the offense for a second. Dan Feeney went out with a concussion in the first half, and that was after Simi Cobbs unfortunately sustained an ankle injury on the very first snap. He sat out the first game this year, and the very first play of his season might have ended his season because Coach Wilson indicated that surgery might be necessary for Simi's ankle. So
and he has a redshirt year too.
He does, but for his sake, we hope it isn't. Hopefully there'll be a different diagnosis. But if it does require surgery, he's probably done for the year. But the thing about this Indiana team, is great. I mean, Feeney's a first-team All-American, and deservedly so. He was awesome last week, I thought. And he goes out this week, so Jake Bailey, another fifth-year senior, comes in and ready to play and plays fine, and then Nick Westbrook steps in for Simi, and has two long touchdown passes, and generally looks like a threat out there. And that's one thing I thought Indiana showed tonight. It didn't show in the opener, which was some explosiveness. And once again, this is a bit of a credit to Lego. That came through mostly the air. Indiana's had some explosiveness with its running game in the last couple of 3 seasons with Tevin Coleman and Jordan Howard and guys like that. Divine Reddy has been very steady. He just had his 5th 100-yard game, so he's been great. But there hasn't been the kind of explosion out of the running game this season like there's been the past couple of years. Well, tonight, Lego and the receivers provided that, and once again, that's an encouraging sign for IU, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot to like there with Westbrook, and with all due respect to Simi, I mean, that's surely a loss for a guy who's a returning receiver, 1,000-yard guy last year.
A guy expected to be maybe an All-Big Ten caliber player.
Exactly. I will say, however, that having a guy like Nick Westbrook on the depth chart, it eases that a lot. I mean, they're positioned well to continue moving forward in this offense. I mean, Westbrook's just a big. He can continue to learn how to play physical, but he's got some explosion. He's quick. He's sure-handed as far as we can tell.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot to like, and they really like Nick Westbrook coming out of high school. So we thought he might even be a guy who emerged surface at points last year, and we saw him at different points. But it was really we've heard a lot about Nick Westbrook the last few months.
He was first team all Florida.
Yeah,
first team All State in Florida.
I heard whispers that they were actually concerned they might lose him late in the game as a recruit too. I mean, there were some teams that were really in on
big time programs were coming in hard late. But there are a lot of guys we haven't even seen yet in this receiving core. I mean, one of the freshmen they really like coming in, Taysir Mack, for example.
Yeah.
Just for example,
another bigger body physical guy.
I think there are big playmakers on this side of the ball, and that's kind of a point that Coach Wilson made after the game, where he said, we're a Big Ten team. We've got guys, we've got players. I mean, we're not a great team yet. We're still building. There's still a lot of stuff that has to transpire in a positive direction, but it's no longer as woe is Indiana. If some things go wrong or if some guys get hurt, they just they line up and keep playing. And once again, if you're an Indiana fan, that's an encouraging thing.
And by the way, Camion Patrick dressed today, and he was warming up. So that tells me he's getting closer and closer. I mean, I think now, right before the bye week, I think today getting him out there, getting him dressed and on the field was more of a way to establish routine for him moving forward, getting him comfortable with the pregame stuff. So,
speaking of playmakers or potential playmakers,
apparently the best guy on the football team, and that was said last year with 2 All-Americans on it. So there's a lot of intrigue with Camion Patrick. Yep. Obviously, at the end of the game, before we end this. You touched on this, I think, a little bit in your column. I think it seemed that they maybe got a little too conservative too early.
I thought so.
Doing some of the things they did in that fourth quarter.
It was like 2 runs into the line, and then Lego in an obvious passing situation. And Ball State was getting pressure late on obvious passing downs. They were bringing the pressure, so it was harder to execute. And once again, I mean, you think about the Rutgers game. I mean, that wasn't just a defensive breakdown. The offense also shut down for the last quarter and a half. Special teams. So we saw some vestiges of that. We saw a little bit of that today. But once again, they made sure the ship was righted. It was just little stuff sometimes. I mean, I mentioned a play. Doesn't seem like a big play in retrospect, but it was 3rd and 8, I think. And Indiana needs to run clock at that point. And Lego and Mitchell Page hooked up, and Mitchell went way up in the air to catch the ball. And Richard Lego said, "Yeah, that's my guy. He was right where he should be, and he really made a great play." And I said, "Did you know he had that kind of vertical?" And he goes, "Sure, he's a hooper,
yeah, right.
He's a basketball player." Actually, Mitchell Page is a heck of an athlete. If people
you
don't
name
know.
it, he plays it. He
Yes,
plays
it well, and so Indiana has just a better sense of maturity. Even Lego coming in, he's a new quarterback. He's just made his second FBS start today, but he's a junior. I mean, he's been at 2 other FBS programs. He's been around a bit. For him, he had to learn the offense. He had to learn the other personnel. He had to learn his teammates. But in terms of just having sort of an air about him of confidence and composure, I think that's there. So that's, once again, it's a little bit more mature Indiana team, a little bit deeper of an Indiana team. And I think we've seen kind of the residual of that in these first 2 games. When the game was on the line last week, down a point going into the fourth quarter, not only was there no panic, they just basically dominated the fourth quarter and said, we're winning the game, sorry. And then today, when once again, a bad punt play happens and it's a cheap 6 points for the other team, and all of a sudden the other team has momentum. Indiana makes just enough plays to make sure that they stay comfortably ahead. They're two scores ahead at the end. So I think it's a more mature team, it looks like to me, and a deeper team, it looks like to me, and probably as talented a team as Wilson's had here as well.
I'm fascinated by this team, and I'm kind of sorry that there's a bye week next week. We can't see what they have in store for us next. Next chance to see him will be September 24th back here at Memorial Stadium. Wake Forest will be in town playing the return game of that 2-game series that began last year. That's the final non-conference game, and after that we dive into Big Ten play with Michigan State, Ohio State. So buckle up. A lot to watch in the next few weeks. We'll recap it on the blog and on Hoosier Sports Report. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.